It's so good to be here in this virtual room with all of you. As Howard said, we were together in Miami. And while I love teaching live, I also do a lot of teaching and training in this virtual space. In fact, for the last 5 years, I've been teaching fairly exclusively via Zoom. So I have a lot of experience here in this type of rooms. I'm really excited to share what I've learned of selling virtually. As Howard mentioned, I am a former jeweler myself. So I've been on the bench of jewelry. So this is me. I am Kathleen. I've worked on the bench. I've sold behind the counter. So I've worked in physical retail stores. And then I've also worked for virtual retail stores. And we have so much experience, my team, creating scripts, talking through social selling. And that's exactly what we are going to do. And actually, in preparing this presentation, we actually have 4 secrets we'll be sharing with you instead of 3. So we have another bonus secret to just make sure you're fully equipped to have the success that you hope to in the virtual space. And really, my whole goal with this presentation and all the work that I do is to empower you to free up your time. I know when we step into the virtual space, it can really feel like all we're doing is replying to DMs. And this presentation will really walk you through exactly how to streamline your process so you can get back to doing what it is that you want to be doing, whether that is ordering new pieces, working with vendors, working with, if you're a designer, getting back to the bench, whatever that element is that really lights you up. That's the goal. Because I think sometimes when we open our virtual stores, it can be really easy to just feel that all you're doing is answering DMs, answering texts. So what we're going to talk about today is exact techniques to make sure you're very efficient and closing sales. So that's what I do day in, day out. I work with clients and students to teach them these techniques. So I'm really excited to work here with you today and have you think through some of these high level concepts that are super actionable for you to take after this presentation and go start closing sales. So what I would love to hear from you is in the chat, who are you and what's your signature jewelry style? What kind of sets you apart? What do you love to sell? And what do your clients and collectors love to buy? And again, this presentation will be interactive. So I have chat pulled up over on the screen. We have some people coming in from Chattanooga, Canada, Wisconsin, Atlanta, and I'd love to just hear more about the signature style, really what sets you apart as we are going through this presentation today. And we all know, right, as Howard mentioned, what I really teach is marrying old school techniques with modern selling strategies. And to be successful in business, you just have to get good at selling. We all fundamentally understand this. And I think sometimes when we are asked to be in a new arena like we are now, where all of us are here in the Zoom room together, we really have to harness the skills that have worked in the offline space and translate them here into the virtual arena. So nothing I will teach you today is something that you haven't mastered already with the success you've seen selling face-to-face. And we are simply just translating it here into the virtual arena. And I just want to talk about 2020. 2020 showed us that there is a renaissance in the industry. And what is working, or what was working before, might not be working in the same way now. And for some of us, what was working before we actually find, as some of my clients do when they step into the virtual space, that they actually start to outperform their physical locations. I've even had a client have their virtual storefront start to outperform 2 of their physical locations. And also, it's really a pivotal moment that we're all in. You know, you guys are all here with me in this virtual room from the comfort of your own storefronts, from your own couches. And I do believe that your clients feel the same way. They now have this understanding and expectation, for better or worse, that they can connect with you before they're making a sale. So it truly is a moment where we can either embrace this change and, you know, hope that things continue to shift and evolve as they naturally will. But I do truly believe that this level of social selling, this level of client concierge, is not going away. So the more we can truly master what it is to connect in this deep, intimate way in the virtual space, this is where you can, again, as I said, have a 3x in your income, have your virtual store start to outperform your physical location, and really start to replicate the feeling that your clients love when they walk into your store in the virtual space. So that is exactly what we'll be talking through today. And even if your showroom is currently open for business, and I know we are spread out all around the country, so we all have different availabilities at this current moment in time. But even if your showroom is open for business, I'm sure over the past 12 months, you've seen an uptick in DMs, in Instagram conversations, in texts, in emails, in people hungry for information that they used to have to come to your physical store to receive. And maybe this is you. Maybe you've been very successful with your brick and mortar location, but now your clients aren't necessarily walking through the door and you aren't sure how to go ahead and get in front of those high revenue clients. And maybe that's why you came to this presentation and why you're attending Jewelry Ecomm Live. And this could be very much where you are. Maybe you have an e-commerce website, but it feels like there's just crickets, right? You're not getting the engagement that you want. Maybe when you're posting on the social media channels, you're not necessarily getting that same level of engagement that you're hoping for. So this might be you. And if you identify with this, just know that we're here to really share some tips and secrets, 4 secrets, in fact, that will help you really transition what's worked really incredibly in your brick and mortar into the virtual space. And maybe this is you as well. You're online and the sales are coming, but like many clients I work with, you know things are falling through the cracks. You have a running tab, a running list in your head of people you maybe haven't responded to, of custom inquiries that have come in that you haven't reached back out to. And you know if you just had a way to turn these inquiries into cash, that you would have the ability to truly outpace that physical store that you have, right? So just knowing that if you were able to harness what is already happening and what's already working in the online space, that you could grow even bigger. And so if you identify with this, just know that this presentation is here for you as well. And what you're really ready to do is that you're not ready for more just like marketing techniques and more I like to call it spaghetti on the wall, where you just keep trying things again and again, but you're truly ready for having these conversations turn into sales. Less about more hearts on your Instagram post, getting to that vanity metric that you have in your mind. If I just have this many email subscribers, this many website visitors, but truly finding that missing link to turn those conversations wherever they're happening, on your website, on your Instagram, via text, and actually having tips and techniques to turn those into sales. Because if you don't know how to close this link and close the gap, I like to call it a leaky funnel. And that's something you'll hear often through the e-commerce world, is that, you know, this client acquisition is always a bit like a funnel. So you want to get more leads in and have those leads turn into sales. But what I find a lot of times is if you don't have this missing link, if you haven't mastered social selling, a lot of times you'll have your, you'll get more and more leads coming through, but instead of a funnel where they convert to sales, they just go straight down. So go ahead and to chat and let me know, just like with a thumbs up emoji. If you guys have played around with Zoom, you'll know that there are reactions. So either thumbs up in chat or on your screen if you've ever had this feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm getting more and more inquiries, but they just seem like they're going right through, like it's a hose instead of a funnel. I'm not necessarily seeing the sales that I want. So if you've ever felt that way, today I'm going to show you these actual key secrets to closing these sales virtually. And this is all about embracing the connection that comes with working with your clients. And this isn't just theory. This is truly what I see shift with my clients. And this is a client named Christine, and she's a private jeweler based in DC. And as she's been implementing these social selling techniques, and she's just exemplary at connecting with her network, posing questions, really having this incredible intimate back and forth conversation with her prospects, she messages me all the time and says, Kathleen, I'll comment on one of her posts. She posts, for example, on Facebook, and I'll say, oh my gosh, this is great. And she'll private message me and she says, yeah, Kathleen, I just got some leads from this. I made a sale from this post. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. In fact, Christine was able to really thrive through the pandemic when things were closing down because she had such incredible relationships with her people. And in fact, she had a brick and mortar location that she ended up closing down after 2008 and now works in this way at a very private concierge level by appointment only style business. So I wanted to showcase her to let you know that there are real people implementing these secrets I'll be telling you about today. But the journey begins with a shift in mindset. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that's being asked of us from 2020. We've had a lot of mindset shifts, but into 2021, as we're truly looking ahead and we're getting more and more curious about the future. And this mindset shift is really how we're interacting in the virtual space, what it means to be online. And I want you to start to clear your mind and erase previous perspectives of how you've been using social media, and even this concept of social selling. And actually, I want to bring you back to kind of the original way that we want to do this. And if you've watched me before, which many of you have, you know, and let's see how this works on my, we're having like a green screen fail. Anyway, I was going to show you, does this work if I put it in front of me? Oh, doesn't work. Green screen fail, but I was going to show you a picture of my grandparents. And I keep a picture of my grandparents on my desk. And I do this for a few different reasons. But the real reason I do it is that I want to remember that what we're talking about is timeless. Yes, we're going to talk about specific techniques here, but it's truly a timeless concept. And it's really about connecting in this one-on-one way, where we're really having these intimate conversations, even if it is via Instagram, even if it is via LinkedIn or chat on our website. But we really always want to remember that there is another person on the other side of the screen. So clearing your kind of preconceived notions of how you've been using social media as this one-sided conversation, where you're treating it more like a billboard and not necessarily using a concept we like to call an invitation for conversation. So starting to kind of think through what social media can be used with, how your website can be used to truly have this invitation for conversation throughout everything you're doing. And what I'd love you to actually start to think about, if you are a social media user on your personal page, for example, how much more conversational your work is there, how much more you're showcasing something about your life. Even if you're showing a few pieces of jewelry on your personal page, for example, you're truly looking to share, connect, and educate. And that's exactly the shift, the mindset shift, this kind of fundamental mindset shift that we're looking for you to move into as you're thinking and almost rewiring your brain to have this level of social selling. We're asking you to show up in this authentic way in the social media space. And to get good at social selling, you have to think about being invited to the world's largest networking event. For example, as of 2020, LinkedIn had 760 million users. Facebook stats are similar. Instagram stats are similar. And it's truly about how are you showing up to this party, this social party, and what are you bringing to the party? How many conversations are you beginning and opening? Are you sitting on your couch, right? Are you passively consuming information? Are you posting these one-sided levels of conversation? Or are you truly looking to open up to initiate conversation. And we'll talk through the 4 secrets that we have to share with you today. But it's really about having this fundamental mindset shift that we are not presenting billboards. What we're actually doing is posting, creating content, creating our websites so that we are initiating this beautiful level of conversation. And we want to think about how networking can actually lead to this social selling, because we can't necessarily talk about social selling without talking about getting more visible. And I like to have this concept that I teach my clients and students, that the more visible we are, the more leads we get. And the more leads we get, the more we can learn to close that sales loop. So again, the more visible we are, the more leads we get, and then we can transition that into sales. So it really is about becoming more visible in the virtual space, learning how to convert those leads into sales, and how this level of networking, again, what my grandparents would have done if they needed more business, and what you have done historically. So many of my clients I work with are multi-generational businesses, and what they do is as relevant today as ever, but we're just doing it in a different medium. So if they needed new clients, if you have a multi-generational business and your grandparents had said, okay, we need to have some new clients, they would reach out to their previous clients. They would really work on their network. They would remember important dates. So that's exactly what we'll be showing you today. And so there are 4 secrets to excel at social selling to the affluent, to people who are busy, highly educated, and looking for more information on what it is that you sell. So the number 1 secret, and this relates to either people who are texting you, emailing you, DMing you, leaving comments on your Facebook pages, is to ask leading questions instead of actually ending the conversation. And this is truly about, again, coming back to that fundamental mindset shift around what social selling is and what social selling means. And so many times when I say social selling, or I say having more conversations in the virtual space, which is truly what social selling is, people think of, oh my gosh, this is a drain on my resources. I'm having so many one-sided conversations. They're just tire kickers who are just wasting my time. And I'm always just talking to people who aren't qualified to buy from me. But what we'll teach you today here in secret number 1 is actually starting to flip some of those ideas about what social selling is and actually see what is possible if you are initiating and continuing the conversation just as you would do in person. So what connecting with social selling actually means is that even if a buyer comes to you with a very straightforward question, you don't just answer what is asked. And this is what you would do in person. So I always love, if we were all together in person, I would show this to you in person and you would see more of my body language, but I'll show it to you here in our virtual space together. So this would be like Howard coming into my jewelry store and saying, Kathleen, I would love to see the sapphire piece. How much is it? And like a robot, I would answer, $24,000. But I would never tell him anything else about the piece. I would just basically, it would be like if he and I were in the store together, I would present this piece to him and then literally turn my back and walk away. And when we are doing this in the virtual space, if you're getting emails, if you're getting DMs like this, and when someone asks you, for example, what's the price on this ring? And you simply just state that price, it is just like Howard coming into my store, me greeting him asking a very specific question, and then me not continuing that conversation. So you can see in this example, the reply is more so, great eye. This is an incredible sapphire. What drew you to this piece? So we're not answering the question. We'll get to answering the question on price, but we're truly understanding what is behind that question. And we're encouraging engagement. We're encouraging opening up this conversation. And when we can do that, that's really where you'll start to see your information, like your conversations, turn into actual conversations, or rather your inquiries turn into actual conversations. So that is secret number one, truly learning to continue the conversation. And this moves us into secret number two, which is your best clients are the ones you have. And we will be putting all of these secrets together in a real life example at the end of this presentation. But it really is this fundamental, again, I'm asking for a lot of mindset shifts in this conversation that we're having. But when we can refocus our social selling on not just getting new leads, but getting leads who are most likely to buy in the virtual setting, this is where I see my clients' success in the virtual space really, really take off. So we want you to connect with those that you already know. This is a really great thing. Again, it always harkens back to what would my grandparents have done if they had to drum up more business, if they needed to have, if they needed more cash, they would be reaching out. They would remember important milestones. They would be physically running in to, their colleagues at galas and events and different things of that nature. And while a lot of that is not available to us here on this particular date, what we can do is start to go through your point of sale system. I always love to have you, anytime someone comes to me and starts to work with me, we have them identify their, what I call extremely important collectors, their EICs. So who are those people that you love when you get an email from them, you love when you get a message from them, and you love when they walk in the door? And find them on social media. Start to build a relationship with them in the virtual space. And what this will do is start to broaden your network. So when you can connect with them, if they are on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, wherever it is that they're spending their time, if you connect with your extremely important collectors in those spaces and actually regularly reach out. So the action step here is to connect on social. And then the second thing you need to do is actively reach out. So every 30, 60, 90 days, connect with them as a genuine friend and trusted advisor. So we'll go through some real specific examples when I put all of the secrets together for you. But this is really about knowing that the people most likely to buy from you in any economy, in any medium, be it in person or in the virtual space, are those who've already bought from you once before. So by connecting with them in the virtual space, you have the opportunity to quote unquote run into them. And they feel very good because they're deepening this personal relationship that you have with them. And you feel great because you're starting to know their tastes, what they're looking for, as well as any important milestones. So this is an incredible way to make sure you're nurturing your network throughout your time in the virtual space. You can comment on their accomplishments. And the real goal here is very, very old school, right? Very fundamental, that we want our clients to feel that we see them, that we hear them, that we acknowledge them. And this goes so far. So if you have, a client who has been buying from you for a long time and you connect with them on LinkedIn, you can start to comment on articles they're publishing, comment on things that they are putting out there, on milestones from their corporate careers, for example. And who knows, in having this conversation and truly becoming this genuine friend and trusted advisor, you'll be top of mind. And that's really the key thing here, is really having this idea of being visible leads to leads and leads to sales. So the more visible we can be, and the more it's less of a billboard, posting a billboard on social media, but truly having it be this interactive two-way relationship, just as it would be in person, that's really where you can start to see these sales come in. And again, the best clients are the ones you have. So beginning this process with those who already love you, they already know, like, and trust you, is a great way to get your skill set up in social selling, and especially applying tip number 2 or secret number 2, which is all about initiating conversation. And so the next secret of social selling is to actually embrace objections. And I think so many times when we encounter an objection in person, we're so much more apt to know how to respond to it. But for whatever reason, when it's in cold written language in the virtual space, whether it's a chat on your website, a DM, a text, an email, it can feel so much more black and white that this objection is here. So so how many of you guys have been chatting and have had these types of conversations, and then it feels like you've run into an objection? That's too expensive. It's not the right time. How do I believe that you'll actually send it to me? We're just in the virtual space. So we'll go through some of these specific objections, but it's so often to have a chatting and then turn into this level of objection. So while you are in this space, it's really important to embrace objections just as you would in person. And I always love to kind of equate it to the time I worked in the physical jewelry store, and we had a very long counter. So the engagement rings were by the window and the cash register was quite a bit away from where the engagement rings were. So there was always this moment as we were walking towards the cash register where they were like, yes, I love this piece. But along that walk, I would always encounter some objections. But I knew we were that much closer to the sale. And, if we take an out of industry example here and talk about high-end real estate, you won't even be considered a buyer in high-end real estate until you have questions about the property, for example, until you have questions about what it is. But when we're in the virtual space, I think sometimes it can feel like when we get objections, when we get what feels like pushback, it means the sale is done. But actually, if we think of this in the physical space, it just means the sale is beginning. So I think that a lot of people feel that sales sometimes, and specifically dealing with objections, is really convincing people, hiring expensive salespeople, hounding people to come over to our side to really have this idea, or discounting everything. But it truly is just listening to the person on the other end. It's really coming back to that secret number one. So the more we can truly understand what objections really mean, and that it actually means you're walking to the cash register, and that's when you're getting closer to a yes. So that really is, again, we're asking for quite a bit of mindset shifting here, but dealing with, and I see some amazing comments that we'll make sure we address at the end. I'm going to save all the questions to the end, but keep your comments coming through because I'd love to see them. But when we are kind of moving and when we hear, oh, it's too expensive in a comment or in a chat, starting to have the skill set to open the conversation back up, to truly make sure that you're understanding their why, what they're looking for. So for price objections, for example, you want to seek to understand them, not convince them that they are wrong. And with our clients, we do a lot of work around this. So this is a pretty big topic and something that we could spend at least 45 minutes dissecting completely. But when we want to kind of think of, oh, that's too expensive, I like to kind of equate this to seeking to understand them. So you can, again, this is the difference between one-on-one. So if you're in a one-on-one kind of private DM conversation, you usually know what they're shopping for, why they're shopping, what has drawn you to their work, to your work. So you can reconnect with their why, just as if you were in person selling with them. So again, you're not trying to convince them that they're incorrect, that it's expensive. What you can open up with is saying something along the lines of, yes, handmade domestic jewelry is expensive. Yes, we use all fair mined gold. So I totally understand if you're used to shopping somewhere else, our prices might be more expensive. Or, as a graduate gemologist, I hand source all of these pieces and I actually fly to the mines and I have relationships with these people. So I understand the quality of gemstones might not be what you're used to seeing from other vendors. So you start to have some of these objections around price scripted out, so you can start to reply just as you would in person. And really, that's something you'll hear me say again and again. We want it to feel just the same experience in the virtual space as it is in person. So you also might run into virtual buying objections that people might say, I don't feel comfortable buying something I've never seen. I don't, how do I know I'm going to get it? How do I know this is a real diamond? So there are a few ways to get around this. One, we'll talk about in secret number 4, but some things you can do. Some of my clients have had great success with kind of taking the industry concept of sending things on memo or sending things on approval and sending 1 to 2 pieces over to your client or your person who's interested. Again, I'd always recommend speaking with your lawyer, speaking with your card merchant processors, making sure this is a very above board, that you're holding their credit card, for example, before you're sending goods out. Usually you're vetting these people. So this is, again, kind of coming back to secret number 2, where you're usually doing this for clients you already trust or who have already bought from you. But it's a great way to get the jewelry from your world into their hands, and then maybe have a video chat with them after or something along those lines. And the other thing is truly always connecting back to their why. Usually at this point, if you're kind of coming up with these objections, you've been chatting with them for a while. So you can truly, truly understand why they're having this objection. And the more you can equate it back to why they're interested in this piece of jewelry, that's really where you'll continue this walk to the virtual cash register. And then you might also run into trust objections. So this can really be where someone fundamentally doesn't trust you. And this comes back to secret number 1. And secret number 2, working with those you already know. And if you're working with someone new, looking to build that trust in what you're sharing. So the secret number 4 is truly creating intimacy, this level of virtual intimacy that is required to sell high-end pieces. And this can be done in a few different ways, but having some technology to your advantage, like here we all are in Zoom, I can see your chats, we're going to step into breakout rooms. This is a really great tool for a group, but it's actually a very excellent tool for a one-on-one conversation as well, because you can look them in the eye. What we actually see with a lot of our clients is as they're incorporating more video conversations with their best clients, they actually get to know them even more intimately. Maybe a partner walks through, maybe they see a dog in the background. But what we're hearing more and more is that often in these virtual, very intimate conversations, they're pulling out other pieces of jewelry and starting to kind of think through, and you get to see their style and how they could pair their pieces with the piece that they're considering in your virtual space. So that's really an added bonus to this level of virtual intimacy that we could never have if we were all in person together, or if these people were coming into your store. And I think sometimes when we talk about technology and when we talk about systems, it can feel like I'm just, okay, Kathleen, you're just adding more to my plate. I have so much going on. And I completely understand, but it's really about making sure you have the right systems, you have the right technology in place that allows you to keep track of conversations when you're kind of dealing with some of those objections that you know you can, if you were just in person, you could deal with much better. Maybe you don't feel that you're a very good writer. That's what we're going to talk about here in secret number 4. And having these profitable systems in your business means that you'll actually keep track of the conversations that you're having and revisit them. I can't tell you how often when I do one of the audits, if I'm working with a new client, we say, okay, let's figure out your quickest way to cash. For example, Howard's right here. So keep using him as an example. But Howard, let's figure out the quickest way to cash. What conversations have you had that have been stalled? And maybe Howard is saying, okay, Kathleen, perfect. Let's go through my DM inbox. Let's go through my emails and texts. And inevitably, Howard or anyone else would find, oh, there's this person I never responded to, or I was supposed to send them photos and I just totally forgot because I didn't have a system to keep track of these leads. Or, oh my gosh, that person was really interested and they never came by and I never reached back out. So the more you can have a system, be it an Excel spreadsheet, be it your CRM system that you're using, to keep track of these conversations. So you or some of your sales staff have a job and spending at least an hour to 30 minutes to up to an hour, if not more, going back through these conversations and seeing what has lapsed and using secret number one. So really utilizing that first secret we talked about to open up these conversations, to truly seek to continue the conversation. And then, as we said, as I was saying earlier, we're here in this virtual space all together. Selling with video or even phone calls is still more relevant than ever. It's really easy to kind of lean on text messaging, to lean on emailing and DM, but the more you can kind of build your technology stack to get ready, really ready for a virtual call, to get ready to just pick up the phone. And one tip that a lot of people don't think of until I share it with them, one secret rather, is on Instagram. If you're DMing back and forth with someone, you can actually send a voice note. So if you're looking at your screen, at the very bottom next to the keyboard is a little microphone. And if you press that microphone, you can leave up to a minute-long voice note. And that's an incredible way to build intimacy with your clients, to have this moment of, maybe they say, oh, wow, that's more expensive than I expected. And instead of justifying or writing out something to convince them otherwise, by leaving a voice note, you bring a level of kind of humanity. You bring a level of that they understand, that you see them. And that's a really great tip and trick to kind of bridge some of these objections that you might have and make it feel more as if you are together in person.
Kathleen, sorry to jump in. We've got about 7 minutes until we're going to be starting your breakout rooms.
Okay.
You can go from room to room, but if you want to take some questions ahead of that, hopefully soon you would do that. And let me know if you need my help to read them or if you'll see them because you have multiple screens.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much. So this is, we'll wrap up here. This is real, you guys. Like, this is truly what works. And I had a client who posted something on social media. 20 minutes later, she sold a $48,000 sapphire in a 5-minute phone call. And I think sometimes that we have this belief and this fallacy that when we are in the virtual space, that people will come to our website and click to buy. But truly what they're going to do is click to have a conversation. So the more that you can truly understand what that feels like, how to create that level of virtual intimacy in the virtual arena that we're all playing in, you too can post something on Instagram and have the skill set to close in a 5-minute call from someone who you've never necessarily even met before. So this is here. Well, Howard, I have so much more to share, but I am going to open to taking some questions. It's really, this is the tip of the iceberg, and it's really about seeing this in action and making sure that you have this beautiful understanding of how to move someone from knowing you, from following you online, into actually being a buyer. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share here and come into answering some of the questions that are here. And the questions that have been coming in, I have 2 screens, so I've been seeing them come in. So I'm so incredibly excited about the engagement I've had. If you do want to connect with me after this call, the best place is to find me on Instagram. My website is KathleenCutler.com or over on LinkedIn, and we can chat. And I do private trainings for people, as well as have clients that we implement a lot of these techniques for. So I'd love to connect with you. And I'm going to go through these questions kind of one by one. And then, as Howard mentioned, there will be breakout rooms where I will be coming through as well. And I actually have a question for you guys to discuss in your breakout rooms. And some really great questions. We had some, people from all over. Thank you for telling me what you guys are interested in. And Elmar asks, in this example, do you initiate from a personal account or a brand account? And that was a really, really fantastic question. And it's all about the level of intimacy that you want to create. And I think sometimes, I grew up with Facebook. I was in college when Facebook came out, which dates me either old or young, depending on your own age. But I used Facebook first as more of a personal place to connect with friends and family. And since then, I've really transitioned to utilizing my own personal Facebook page more as a place to conduct business. So if you are the owner of a business, you might do the same thing. You might encourage your sales staff to do the same thing. Again, this will really come down to HR and how you want to do this. But you can also have, so it's really starting to think through that shift. Do I want to have myself be connecting on this personal level? You do have to initiate conversations from a personal account. So you can't necessarily initiate conversations from a business account for Facebook, for example. But when you have that ability to potentially utilize your personal Facebook account in this way, that's really where you can unlock some of this networking elements. And again, what I've shared with you is really the tip of the iceberg, because what we teach is actually to have some of the content that's going out on your more broad pages, for example, on your personal page, even if you are the owner of the business. Like for Howard, for example, if he owned a jewelry business, he could post occasionally some pieces that aren't heavy sales, right? It's not like buy, but really this educating, this invitation for conversation. And he might find in his network that people were so interested, because when we're in industry, we see jewelry all the time, but we have to remember that people out of industry don't get to actually see the same level of jewelry that we see. So it's a really, really good question. And if that didn't answer it, please feel free to reach out after. And Marianne shares in this question, more just a general Facebook comment, too expensive, too ugly, etc. I tend to ignore those trolls while generally always respond to positive comments. And exactly, I'd be curious, Marianne, if this came from an ad. Lots of times on ads, we will see kind of that trolling behavior. And actually, I just say, let's hide those comments, especially if it's an ad that you're doing. I love that you're responding to comments here. That's really excellent, Marianne. And I think that you can always play, like if it is on your business page, for example, on Facebook, you can always kind of practice dealing with objections in this way. You could say something along the lines of, yes, ugly comment is like, oh my gosh, why would you ever do that? But you could say something like, we believe beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and this is one of our most popular pieces. Or you could say something along, if it's too expensive, of, I completely understand that this is an investment to buy high-end jewelry at this level. And then kind of the line of, we work with graduate gemologists who pick all of these pieces. And then Howard, we're pausing, right? We're headed into our breakout rooms.
Have about another minute if you want to pick up another question now.
Excellent. All right, they're really good questions, Howard. What app or software do you use to keep track of conversations and follow-ups? And I always like to say the best piece of software is the one you're using. If we put bad data in, bad data comes out. So whatever it is that your team will utilize. So I've seen teams use CRM systems. I've seen teams really successfully use Excel spreadsheets. And it really is more so about what can you utilize? Who is managing this? I think that having one person in charge of making sure nothing falls through the cracks is really important, but making sure as well that your people are empowered. And, we do a lot of scripting, right? So you would kind of have these scripts that they would feel comfortable in sharing. So it's less about worrying about what is the exact software and truly about where am I making sure and who is in charge of keeping track to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. And excellent. Molly, this is a really good question too. Molly asks, if the conversation has been completely through social media, PMs, direct messages, do you recommend having the client purchase through e-commerce on the jewelry site, taking the payment information via phone, or through PayPal or Venmo? And this is a great question, Molly, because what we want to do is not lose the sale, right? Like that is the key that we want to do here, Molly. So when we leave someone to check out on their own, when we say, okay, perfect, you loved it, here's the link, it is really easy for them to have those questions on the way to the register, right? I've given you this visual of when I worked in the jewelry store. I'd walk from here over here, And in that walk, that's when the true objections would come up. So when we do kind of leave them on their own to complete the checkout process, that's really where it's possible that they never ever check out. So if you can get them on a quick phone call, say like when I was selling, when I moved from the brick and mortar location to the e-commerce side of the business, we would so often say, all right, perfect. We'd be chatting through email. Let me give you a quick call, right? So let me call. Well, whatever your process is, take that credit card information over the phone. But we really want to avoid sending a link. You can even walk them through, do a video share where you walk them through checking out. But you want to make sure that they aren't going to kind of have those objections that are unanswered in that interim. Awesome. So we had some really, really great questions, and loved hearing this and seeing all of this, Howard. And I think, are you going to manage the breakout rooms, or would you like me to create them and put people in?
I've got them created, and I'll set them up and get them started. You must have covered live chat and live video chat from store websites. Have you talked about that a little bit?
I'm happy to chat about that a little bit as well. And the principles relate here, right? It's really about making sure when you get a live chat on your site, when you get a DM video chat, for example, that you're coming back to secret number one, that you're always looking at what is one level deeper. How can I continue this conversation? Because what you'll see is so many times people say, what's the size of this stone? What's the size of this ring? Can you send me the measurements? And it'll be very tempting, because you're very busy people, to reply back with the question that they're asking. But coming back to secret number one, no matter the medium that you are utilizing, is the key to social selling. So if you get any sort of inquiry like that, remembering what it would feel like if we were in store together and you came in and you kind of rushed to one piece and said, Kathleen, what's the millimeter on this? Or what size is this ring? And imagine the experience if I just answered you and then turned my back and went back to my phone, or turned my back and went back to cleaning other pieces of jewelry. You would be left wanting so much more. So it truly is, and this is this big fundamental mindset shift that is required of you in the social selling sphere, is to start to learn and start to probe and ask and pretend you're in store. If someone came in with a very specific question, you would also show them some other pieces. You would really seek to understand what brought them into the store. Who are they buying for? What milestone are they celebrating? So really, no matter if it's video chat, no matter if it's DMs, comments, really looking to have that intimate one-on-one conversation.